chairman of the town of Jerome, as the chairman of the Jerome Board of Adjustments, I declare this meeting open. All board members are in attendance. Do I need to actually have them testify they're here?
Let's do the official roll call. That way we'll have it for people who don't have the video. That way we'll have it on the record.
We also need the official meeting start time.
I have 5:04.
Thank you. Okay, roll call. Gary Shapiro.
Here.
Susie Mound.
Here.
Chris Babbage.
Here.
Natalie Barlow.
Here.
Margie Hardy.
Here.
Thank you.
We are getting some feedback from somebody.
My screen is just showing this meeting is being recorded.
That's correct.
Accept it. Just hit the got it button right there.
And there's Kristen.
And then, sorry guys.
Mhm.
There you are.
Oh, there we are. Oh, except it's frozen. I love Zoom, you know.
Hmm.
Come on.
Let's go.
I'm in a meeting.
My screen's frozen.
It's not on this end.
Yeah, we can see you.
Yeah, well, my screen is frozen as of a minute or so ago. But I can hear everyone, I guess. All members are in attendance. Item 2 on our agenda is petitions from the public. I'm assuming there aren't any. John?
Oh, I apologize. No, that's correct. That's correct. We have nothing from the public at this time.
Okay, then we can move on to item 3, the election of officers.
And just a quick note, Chair Shapiro, we do elect officers once a year, but if the board's interested in postponing that, we can do that with a motion of the full board.
In which case, if we postpone, then I would continue to chair this meeting. If we do the election, I would hand over the chairman responsibility to whoever the board would elect.
That's correct. And we'll need a motion of the board to either one or the other.
I motion to postpone.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Aye. I believe that's all of us. I wish my screen wasn't frozen, but oh well. Let's see. Motion is made and passed. We'll move on then to item 4, the approval of minutes from our board meeting of June 24th, 2020.
I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
I think I have to abstain because I wasn't there.
Oh,
I'm not part of I wasn't part of the board.
oh, right. Okay. Well, and I vote aye as well. So the motion passes unanimously. So we are now then moving into item 5 on our agenda. The adoption of Board of Adjustment bylaws as continued from the previous meeting.
That's correct. And the board did approve, John Knight, zoning administrator, the board did approve the bylaws at the last meeting, but we never had a chance to present those back to you and the so-called clean version. So just because it has been so long, I thought it was appropriate to reprint it and ask the board if they would adopt the bylaws.
That's not on the. Is that on the agenda?
That's correct. Item number 5. And just a reminder, I see Commissioner Hardy is interested in talking, but Gary, Chair Shapiro can't see you. So,
Oh, really? Oh, she just unfroze my screen, but I guess.
Oh, are we back?
You can't see me?
We can see you just fine.
Oh, good. Yeah, my screen was frozen until now. And so then do I need to hear a motion to approve the the adoption of the Board of Adjustment bylaws?
Excuse me, Gary, I have my hand raised to comment.
Please.
Okay, for the bylaws,
Mhm.
section, where did I, oh, figures, I've lost it. There's a section, here we go, sorry, A3C is not in compliance with the zoning ordinance because it says that the members of the board can't miss three unexcused absences, and we changed that. The council changed that a few years ago, that it's 4 in 1 year of any kind of absence.
When are we ever going to have 4 meetings in a year?
Well, the point is, we may have. The point is that that is what it says in our ordinance. I beg your pardon?
We're getting some feedback.
I'm sorry. So that's
okay.
what I'm saying. I think we should be in compliance with the zoning ordinance as far as that goes, because they voted, the council voted, it's in the zoning ordinance, like I said, that we can take, you can have 4 of any kind of absences. They don't have to be excused or anything else, but on the 5th absence, you are automatically discharged from the board. And
I'm
that's
sorry,
it.
what page is this on? Where is this?
What do you want, the page of the zoning ordinance, or do you want the page of the bylaws?
Well, we're not on the zoning ordinance. We're the Board of Adjustments.
Yes,
Where-
we are
where-
on the board. We are in the zoning ordinance.
So where is it in the Board of Adjustments? What page?
Page, it's section
Page-
105A.
So that's page 2 of the bylaws. It's actually more restrictive than the zoning ordinance, which
And
is
that-
on the section.
Oh, I
as-
see it.
Yeah, as you mentioned, it's section 105A. So you can leave it, or we can adjust it so it's consistent with the section 105A of the zoning ordinance. It's up to the board.
If I may, I think that the zoning ordinance may trump the bylaws, or at least they should be the same. And we did that. When I say we, I remember we talked about it a lot at planning and zoning, because it was a better match for people who needed to get away at the last minute and didn't have to worry about excuses or no excuses or whatever. You could have 4 absences. Who wants, 4 absences is a lot.
It's extreme for the Board of Adjustments, yeah.
Yeah.
Consider-
So,
Considering you don't meet more than once a year, sometimes.
Mhm.
well, this one could have been 3 meetings, but as it turned out. Anyway, that, I think we should change it to match.
Is there any further discussion? And do I hear a motion?
I'll make a motion to please change it to the 4, any absences 4 in 1 year, and after the 4th in 1 year, it says that without further action being taken by the board, the appointment will be vacated. That's the long language. We could just adopt exactly what's in the zoning ordinance,
Right.
but that's my motion.
So
Do
that's,
I hear a second?
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay,
and just to clarify, that's section 105A of the zoning ordinance, and we'll make sure that that language is consistent.
Chris, was that a nay?
that was a nay.
Thank you.
Susie, Natalie?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries with 4-1, I believe. And, so now we move into our new business, which is the variance request for construction of a 280 square foot garage at 875 Gulch Road. The applicant owner is Cynthia and Christina Barber. And she's seeking a variance to the 20-foot front street setback requirement to allow a garage to be constructed approximately 5 feet to front property line on Allen Springs Road. Margie?
Oh, you can see us.
Yeah, yeah, well, my thing was frozen for a minute.
Would you like us to start commenting? I should have waited for you to ask.
No, please. Mhm.
Okay. I've reviewed this a lot, and I've realized when I was reviewing it via the zoning ordinance that they require a setback variance because there are two frontages, and the two frontages are both front yards, okay? So from the front and the side, which it's kind of confusing, but actually in our ordinance, it calls any dual frontages are called two front yards. And Mr. Knight has actually put in his description of the variance to allow the applicants to build inside of the front yard on that side. There is one problem that I see based on the ordinance, that there cannot be any accessory buildings built in the front yard of any structure, of any residence. So my thoughts were to either perhaps, I don't know, I've never been on this board before, I'll have to spend 10 years. Would you consider tabling and let them come back if they wished to have because the way I see it, they need two variances from the zoning ordinance. They need to be able to build in the yard, and they need a variance in order to build anything in the front yard. I can quote the zoning ordinance if you'd like.
Might as well have it on record.
I have it, front yard in the AR zone. First of all, section 503EA2 calls that when you have a double frontage, you have two front yards. The other section is section 502H7, no accessory building in front yard can be built. And since the zoning administrator has laid out this application and referenced that part of her property as the front yard, we're stuck with not being able to build in the front yard without another variance.
Ms. Barber?
You're live.
Hi, everybody.
I said,
How are you, Dave?
Presented a lot of pictures of everyone's accessory buildings all along the Gulch Road. There are many, many of them that are all a 5-foot setback. Our front yard is the Gulch Road. Our address is 875 Gulch Road. The side yard and the way that the property is angled, I would consider the Allen Springs Road the side yard. One of the reasons why the variance is written is so that if someone parks in front of the garage walk or anything, the way that the driveway is angled, it gives plenty of room for two cars to park in front of the garage. There is an existing slab, there's a stem wall. My house is only 5 feet off of the Allen Springs Road. The garage would technically be 17 feet off of the Gulch Road. There's a little sliver of property that's owned by UBX that separates my property line from the Allen Springs Road. I would also like to note that the Allen Springs Road is no longer an actual through road. Even the garbage truck won't go up the Allen Springs Road because it's too narrow. I would love for you to take that into consideration and consider it the side yard, especially that my house is only 5 feet off of the Allen Springs Road and a garage would be 17 feet off of the Gulch Road and 5 feet off of my property line. I would rather not table this. I would rather go through with it. I think it is something of which, why there are variances for stuff like this, for non-conforming lots, for this zoning ordinance is written and it has nothing to do with the Gulch. If you can see all of the pictures that I presented, the Gulch is a totally unique place. Everyone's accessory building is right 5 foot off of the garage, off of the Gulch Road, if even, including the fire station at the end of the road. It would definitely not, I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time because I don't like speaking in public, but it would take away from me and my sister what is already allowed in that neighborhood for everyone else. Look at all the pictures. And that's,
Well, the thing
this
is,
zoning ordinance could honestly be changed for the area of the Gulch. And I would love to see it actually match the neighborhood which it is ruling over. Thank you.
Thank you.
well, we actually, part of the Board of Adjustments exceptions is based on the fact that if all your neighbors on the exact same street have the exact same setback difference that you're asking for, so you should be allowed to do that. I agree,
So you're saying,
because everybody there has it.
Mhm. And I do believe your due diligence in your application is exceptional. I live in the Gulch, and I know so much of the Gulch properties are right on the road, if even 5 feet. Susie?
Hi, excuse me. When I read the agenda item, I was kind of concerned that this would come up, because when I went to look at the property, I perceive, and I look at their address, I see that their address is on the Gulch Road, but the back of their house. So I perceived it as they want to put this in the backyard. That's how I look at it. I didn't look at it as a side yard, because when you look at their entire lot, you know, and then the front of their house, and then the existing slab where they want to reconstruct a garage, you know, in my view, is in their backyard. So I guess I had not, you know, quite discovered the dual frontage. That just wasn't, you know, brought up. And in my opinion, you know, all of the other garages and studios in that area are constructed really close. And I think that they should be allowed to just reconstruct their garage as they have planned.
It is in some ways a historic structure, although there's not very much left of it anymore. But I also would like to say that I believe it would help them conform with the off-street parking ordinance, which it's otherwise really couldn't, other than parking in the driveway. Margie?
I can see that as far as the ordinance where it says, why should somebody be disallowed to do something that it appears that is something that everybody else in the neighborhood has been able to do. That's part of an ordinance. My suggestion was basically to not so much table it to deny it, but to just include a separate variance. Now, if the board thinks that we don't need a separate variance for that part of the ordinance where it says you can't build anything in the front yard, I could see that.
Mhm.
If that's what the board thinks, that there is no need for, this is a new experience for me, so how lenient can we be? I mean, as far as what kind of decisions are made.
Mhm.
Chair Shapiro, I'd
John.
like to bring up one point, if you don't mind.
Please.
We do have precedent set recently at a meeting a couple of months ago on Don Nord's property. It's kind of there on the curve on School Street. And we've had these discussions with P&Z several times on odd shaped lots. It's not always straightforward. If you were in maybe Cottonwood or Clarkdale and you had a nice rectangular lot, we know where the front and the backyard. In Jerome, it's oftentimes a question as to where does the front yard and the backyard. And in that case, I thought the quote front yard was the one facing School Street, and P&Z said, no, this is an unusual shaped lot, and we're going to make the determination that that's actually a side yard. So there is some precedence for unusual shaped lots. And the applicant did point out there's actually a sliver of land between their property and Allen Springs Road. So I do think it's within the board's purview to make the determination that, in fact, that is a side yard and would not require a variance.
I would like to make a motion that we approve the variance based on the fact that everybody in the neighborhood has this exact same deal. So that's my motion.
Do I hear a second? Did you say something, Susie? Oh, I didn't, I wasn't sure if the sound cut off.
The mute button, I'll second it.
Oh, motion is made and seconded. And shall we vote, or is there any other comments? I think since it's made and seconded, we need to vote. Natalie?
I'd like to say that I think the historic part is important, that they're rebuilding, that was a garage there at one time in exactly that lot, at exactly that space. So that seems to be important to me.
I concur. So motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
I
I
Aye. And let's see, was that everybody?
Natalie?
I
I think so. Okay, so motion made, seconded, and is unanimous, I believe. And so, and thank you, Sid. And your presentation was very good. Okay, and we'll move on to the next item of business. An application for a variance for construction of a new single-family home at 148 Juarez Street. The applicant owner is Mary Liz Gale, and she's seeking a variance to the 20-foot front street setback requirement to allow a new home to be constructed approximately 5 feet from the front property line.
Where's Tim?
Oh, Liz, there you are. Would you care to comment above and beyond what's in your application?
Sure. One of the things that I'm looking at is to build on that property, which if I'm able to have the variance will allow me to build a normal single housing unit. If not, it will make for a very long and narrow housing because it would approximately give me, I believe, a 10-foot house in one way and a 25-foot house in the other. So I was also looking at the other houses in the neighborhood, and it seems to be most people have way less of a setback in that neighborhood than 20 feet. So
very similar to the situation in the Gulch.
Yeah, it is a lot. And
Exactly.
it's something that, I tried to, in my application, you can see I took pictures of other houses and their setbacks and to that point, yeah, I do believe it is very similar. So that's all I've got to say.
I also need to inform the board members, I actually talked with Rusty Blair, our chief of the fire department, because I was a little concerned about you know, the lot that you apparently own now used to be a way to turn around at the end of the street there. And it is a single lane street. I'm sure everyone in the board has been down to that area, is familiar with the street.
Very much. Yes.
And,
Yes.
but I was a little concerned, but he felt that there would still be nearly as much access egress for emergency vehicles as there is now. So I actually asked him, Margie, I asked Rusty if he could send some communication about his opinion on that. But
That would-
he
Nothing to do with me.
no, he didn't say anything.
It would be something to the board in writing, I would assume, but I don't know. I didn't get anything.
Chair Shapiro, I did have an opportunity to talk to Chief Blair today, and he reminded me that in general, his opinion is that variances should not be approved at all because they have the potential to impede his ability to fight fire. We did talk a little bit about the turnaround and what's in the fire code. The fire code requires basically a cul-de-sac. There are some options for Y-shaped or T-shaped turnarounds. In my experience as a planner, that sort of requirement has typically been done at the subdivision stage. And as you know, most of the plats in Jerome were subdivided almost 100 years ago. So that said, a variance is a very discretionary request. If the board is interested in seeing some sort of turnaround for fire use, you know, that could be incorporated as a condition that is allowed under our ordinances to include a condition that they provide some sort of fire turnaround. However, I just want to clarify that it's typically something that's done at the subdivision stage, not something that's required during the infill when somebody builds a house on an existing legal lot.
I'm sorry, where is the closest fire hydrant that you need to get a fire truck there? Is not there a fire hydrant on Diaz?
I don't know the answer to that.
On Diaz,
Yes, whereas.
Chris, do you mean Juarez?
you mean Morris?
No, you're saying that a fire truck can't get down to Juarez and turn around, but the fire hydrant is on Diaz. Is it not? Where there's plenty of room to turn around.
I see what you're saying. Yeah, and
Yeah, I've been down that road often over the years, and I really can't quite remember where there's a fire hydrant there.
Yeah, exactly.
Margie?
I don't think I was there yesterday and I didn't see any. I mean, I shouldn't say I didn't see any. I don't recollect seeing any.
Yeah.
No, so
I
the
got my hands
issue,
up too.
well, the issue would be is whether you can get an ambulance there and turn it around.
That was
And
my
I think there's
concern.
plenty of room for that, because you won't get a fire truck down there because there's no fire hydrant.
Well, and there's the road's too narrow, I believe, for the larger of the fire trucks.
Exactly.
The bus truck could get down there, but in the foam truck, I'm afraid that would really be up to the fire department to request funding to extend the fire system to that street. Go ahead, Margie.
Oh, thank you. I went, as I said yesterday, I took a walk for the second time down that street. And there's a for sale sign there for that property. And also it's online, but online doesn't really count because it's typically, you have no way to source who's saying what online. But there is a for sale sign in front of that property signed off or with actually Carol Ann is the realtor. My concerns are that of having a meeting with Mr. Knight this afternoon. Like I said, this is a new procedure for me to be part of this board. And so I don't know, actually, John and Chairman Shapiro have both commented on comments made from other people to them and not in writing. So I have some comments that were told to me this afternoon by Mr. Knight. And I'm going to bring them to the board's attention because I don't want to be accused of any ex parte information that I haven't shared, if that's appropriate.
As long as
I
it's
don't hear-
appropriate to the issue at hand.
Correct, sir. And this is regarding the request for variance to the front yard in order to build a bigger home. And Ms. Gale, I believe, has stated that she intends, as she did at the planning and zoning meeting, and I presume tonight, she's stating the intent to build herself a home. But Mr. Knight told me that the point of the, I'm going to misquote because I have a bad memory, but I'll do my very best to be accurate. He mentioned that there would be other people buying this property, and that that's one thing. So I'm confused about whether this property's for sale. I got a little bit to go through here, so bear with me, I know. But whether this property is for sale, in which case I don't understand the application to a request for a variance in order to build a home. Now, the other thing is if in case that is the case, where this is in fact a preliminary something or other to build a home on, or for someone else to build on there after purchase, I would have thought that it would be up to the future. And I mean, I'm not making this up because there's a big sign there and it is on the internet that it's for sale. And Mr. Knight then told me that the people on Juarez also, because one of the solutions to this nonsense with the AR is to rezone. He explained to me this afternoon that and I may have misunderstood him, but I believe he said they polled or told the people on Juarez, and they weren't interested in rezoning, which would have been a solution to all these setback problems, but they weren't interested in that. He told me that 2 individuals were interested in buying it, and that that subsequent owners would apply for a variance in the backyard, making it that much bigger of a lot. Now, these are, I don't want to call, they're not hearsay. Mr. Knight's right there, and if I'm doing the best I can here, but I feel like if we wanted to grant this variance for this large, huge, 15 feet, I think that's large compared to, I looked up and down the road at everybody's position on the road. Most of them, I would say, there's one right on the road, and then there's like a 5 foot and a 10 and a 13. And of course, it all depended on who was building and who was enforcing the ordinance, or whether we even had an ordinance at the time. So my concern is that if we go ahead and approve this, I would like to see it approved based on our zoning ordinance. And I'll tell you what the zoning ordinance states clearly, and I'm going to read it to you. I hope I'm not boring anyone, but I really need to do this, okay? The zoning ordinance states, every variance granted shall be personal to the appellant, Ms. Gale, therefore, and shall be transferable and shall run with the land only after completion of any authorized structure. So in other words, for this to be accomplished, the variance, it would have to be approved based on the conditions, based on what this says, that she will then build herself a home and get the variance.
In addition to that, if a variance is granted, if the appellant needs to begin the process of building within, I believe it's 30 days. Now, let's see. Now, Actually, Carol Ann has been waiting to comment. So the chair recognizes Carol Ann Teague, please.
Thank you, Gary. The fact that the lot is for sale should have nothing to do with whether or not Liz is granted a setback variance.
True.
I have had people who were interested in buying the lot that died because of the setbacks. I do not at this moment have anyone who is interested in buying this lot. We can make lots of assumptions and what ifs, but I do not have a buyer for this lot at this moment. And now Liz wants to say something. I will mute.
Liz is the applicant and is listed as the owner. Liz, would you care to tell us the status of your relationship to this property?
Well, current status is I've owned that property for several years now. One of the things that I'm trying to do is, yes, no, I am looking for a variance so that lot is a buildable lot. I'm not looking to make it a very large house. I'm not making to do an extra variance. I'm making it so that it can conform to other buildings on that street. That is the intent of this request. It is not to, and Margie, I feel like when you said that, you were sort of accusing me of being somewhat duplicitous, which I am not trying to be duplicitous. I'm trying to present an option about how that would look and to make that lot conformable to the rest of the people on the street so that it is a buildable lot and it is not sellable unless it is buildable. Does that, I mean, that's kind of what I'm trying to tell you.
I'm afraid then your application, I believe, is actually out of order. I believe as the applicant for a variance, you need to own with the intention of building a home for yourself. In other words, we can't grant a variance on the basis of whether it's saleable or not. It's only if
Okay,
you
well,
are
I was under
owner
the impression
and
that this is the way I
intend
should
to-
go, so this wasn't something that I thought, if I had known that this was a moot point to do this way, I wouldn't have asked. I was under the impression that this could be something that could be granted, so.
No, I'm afraid not.
May I make a motion?
Oh,
no, I'm sorry,
Is there
jumping
any,
ahead. I
is
beg your
there
pardon.
further discussion or questions from?
Yeah, well,
the-
I would like, I thought you submitted plans for a house that was not 10 feet wide and 50 feet long. You know.
Exactly, no.
And those plans were rejected by the planning and zoning because of the setback. And the fact is that every single house on that street is either less than 5 feet or even a negative setback. And since you're in the same street, I don't understand why we couldn't approve that as being a variance.
John, can I ask your opinion on this?
As long as it's okay with the chair.
Yes, go ahead. Please. Oh, John, yes. please.
I don't know what the question is. What's the question, Ms. Gale?
Okay, John, you know, I was looking for this variance in order to make this a buildable lot. Is this request not appropriate for this board at this time?
I believe it would only be appropriate if you owned the property and intended to build the house that you have in mind. Since you do own the property, but want this variance in order to be able to sell it, I'm afraid we can't grant that because you just want a variance to be able to sell it. I believe you could sell it, and then the owner that intends to build would be able to apply for a variance and ensue on building.
So thank you, Gary. I understand your position. I just was curious if John had a comment on it.
I was under the impression that the variance ran with the land and the board could grant the variance. You
It
may,
does.
we may want to do some additional research with the land use attorney to confirm that. But I
Okay.
think there's some question that's been raised that I think we need to get an answer to, whether the variance runs with the land and what qualifies as quote, any authorized structure. So I think we need some clarification on that before we can move forward, before this board could move forward on that question.
I believe so as well.
Gary, I
Chris?
mean, the variances do go with the land. I
Mhm.
mean, that's always been the case. And
Yes.
her proposal,
But
her
the variance-
request was, right. This proposal is for a 2-story home with a garage. 2 off-street parking spaces are provided, blah, 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 blah. So she's asking for a variance to build a 2-story home with a garage.
But she just testified that she's not going to build it. She wants the variance so she can sell it.
The variance goes with the land.
Only after, if a variance is granted, it's only goes with the land once construction is begun within
Oh,
30
okay.
days. The town just went through an extraordinary legal battle because the previous zoning administrator guaranteed the people who were interested in buying the Cuban Queen, told them that the variance that we granted over the preservation and restoration of the Cuban Queen needed the variance for parking. Well, that owner, we granted that variance and she didn't do anything for at least a year and let the building fall down. Now, in the Arizona statutes over the powers of the Board of Adjustment, I can't recall the number and legal reference, but it does say that if nothing happens, if a variance is granted and the owner doesn't do anything after 30 days, the variance is expunged. Not
Well,
enforceable.
was 6 months, but
Or 6 months.
but in either case, Liz has submitted architectural drawings to build a building. So Liz, if you build the building, you get the variance. If you don't, you don't.
Okay, if it, and basically it has to be me that builds the building, not if I sell it and it's built within 6 months, is what you're trying to say.
Yes,
Yeah.
you as
I
the
do-
owner are the appellant and owner.
You
And
have
if you
to,
don't build the house, the variance doesn't go with it.
you have to pull a building permit within 6 months. You have to quote, exercise the variance within 6 months,
Okay,
which we've
Well-
determined to be some sort of building permit.
okay.
And you have
So-
to do something.
So if
Other
I
than more
got,
than
if
the
I
building
decided
permit.
to get the variance and I pulled a building permit within the next 6 months, I would be within my rights to ask for the variance.
Only if you ensue in actually building it.
If and it has to be me that builds the house. I can't have anybody else build that house.
I don't believe so.
So, yeah, because that's my question. Again, does it run with the land or does it run with the owner? And I
Yeah,
believe Margie
it-
is saying it runs with the owner, but I'd like to consult the land use attorney about that before you guys decided on this. Is that possible?
If you'd like, we could table it until there's more information.
I'd appreciate that.
Margie?
Yes, Chair Shapiro, if Ms. Gale wants to do that, then I would hopefully, we need a lawyer too, because
No, we don't.
even though she gets advice for her situation and how to, which, she would go to a lawyer to accomplish what she needs to do, what she'd like to do. Fair enough. I agree with you. I agree with our zoning ordinance, which clearly says it runs with the owner until the owner has accomplished what they say, what they're doing. Yeah, well, it's right here in black and white. And so in that case, I just want to get it out there. If by any chance this Ms. Gale wants someone else to build, she wants to sell the house and get a variance for them. That's what it sounds like to me. I may be, I don't, if I'm misunderstanding her, it sounds to me like she wants to sell the land, but before she sells it, she wants to make it more valuable by increasing the size of the permitted size for the house. And that's, I don't believe that that's a permitted thing, but
Leader.
Chair Shapiro, if she wants to, if we decided, or you or whoever decides to come back again, I'm just asking if we could please also have an attorney like you've had in the past. That's all. And right now, though, I feel that this hasn't proved, this has not justified. There's no justification for this variance.
Just
As you said, Chair.
Just a quick note, if it is tabled, I think you should table it to a date specific. Since this is a public hearing, we can continue the public hearing if it is tabled to a date specific. If we end up moving the date because of conflicts of time or whatever, it just saves us from having to renotice the public hearing. So just a suggestion, you don't have to though.
Could you explain that further? How does that affect the notice? Could you explain that, please?
So it is a public hearing, and if we table it to a date specific, we're essentially continuing it to that date. If it's just tabled indefinitely, that's fine as well. We will just need to renotice it in the newspaper and post the site. So either way, it's a little cleaner. It saves us some time in noticing. We also notice the variances, people who live within 300 feet. So it saves the town a little bit of money if we can table it to a date specific.
I don't really see why you table it.
Natalie,
Susie?
Yes, I have something besides what we're talking about, although I do agree about everything that has been said. Chris, I don't quite agree with you in terms that everything on that street is like 5 feet. It's not. When you go down and you look, it's not. And this is a new house, and the other new houses are not. One's 13, which was noted, but you go down there and you look around, and so I don't think it's a new house that would be a viable reason for giving a 5-foot setback. The neighborhood, that's what I think, having seen what was there, it being a new house and giving the setback means you can configure it on the lot differently. So I'm just saying that's that point. And the other is I'm saying there was the thought about the variance in the back. 20 feet in the back and 5 feet in the front, I don't know. And I wondered also about the 4 parking spaces. And the thing is, it's what to do with the land. And you're right about this, about the usage in that sense. That's what I'm also questioning, is the configuration of the property for what usage. And so and it's a new building. I think that is important too.
I would also like to clarify that we did not put up for a variance as Margie suggested for the backyard. She said that was a hypothetical that somebody else had mentioned to her that she decided to insert.
Yeah, I understand.
Gary,
Yeah.
Natalie, I believe the only building on that entire street that has a 20-foot setback is Joan Evans. Every other house is way less than that.
I think 13 is different than 5. I think 10 is different than 5.
Oh,
And
Susie?
I was just going to, I agree that it needs to be tabled. And I was going to ask Liz if she had a preference to go ahead and set a date like John Knight suggested, or do you just want to make it indefinite and then go through the whole process again?
I'd like to set a date, and so that way, it's kind of a time limited thing, I could figure out how to make this work. As far as scheduling and everything else, I'm sure everybody else would want that too, since you don't meet as frequently.
Mhm. Well, we only meet when someone feels a need to apply for a variance. Now, so let's see then. Why don't we consider a motion to reconvene over this application for a variance in would 6 weeks be a good time for you to do your research and that way by then our zoning administrator is resigning at the end of the month, and by then we would have another zoning administrator who could pursue the legality of us granting a variance to a person who simply intends to sell. I generally believe that the applicant is either the owner or their legal representative to build once the variance is granted. But that's just my take on it. Margie?
Yeah, I just wondered, what are we tabling? Why are we tabling it? Because, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but I should have finished quicker. Just because the reason I asked that is that unless Ms. Gale changes her application, I don't understand why we're tabling it. Are we going to find out more from an attorney? Is that what's going to change? What's going to change?
There is that possibility. I think if, for example, Ms. Gale finds out that she can't get a variance just to be able to sell it, to raise its values to sell it with a variance, that's not, as far as I know, that's not a basis to grant a variance.
And so
it has to be, I believe, the owner who intends to build, they have to get a building permit within 6 months and do it and build it.
And so
it doesn't go with the land until there's some progress.
And since you think that, and I think that, and I don't know whether the rest of the board feels that way or not, why don't we vote on it? Because whatever Ms. Gale discovers for her benefit, if her application doesn't change, the only thing that's going to change is if we change our minds, you, me. I mean, if she comes back with a different application, that's a different story. If it's the same application, I don't understand we're not going to necessarily go along with what her attorney says. So I don't understand why we don't just vote on it, or whatever, the board chooses. If you feel it's prudent to wait and talk to our own attorney for some reason, or the reasons would be we talk to an attorney, she changes her application, or I don't understand why this is being tabled.
Well, could I say something?
Please.
According to Liz's application, her application is to get a building permit according to the building plans that she submitted with a variance. If she wants to sell it before she builds it, that's a different story. But if she wants to build it with that variance, I support it.
And so may I say, then in other words, conditionally, you would vote, or I shouldn't ask you what you'd vote on, but there's a possibility of conditionally approving the variance on condition that the home be built by Ms. Gale.
Yes.
Period.
Yes.
Yes. Susie?
Exactly.
I don't think that that's a good idea, because as the town has just, dealt with another property that ended up being very, it was a very big legal expense for the town. And, we already know that that's not the way the ordinance reads. And I can't go along with that for the sake of the town and for Miss Gale.
I mean, I don't think the Cuban Queen is exactly a comparable situation. She was given bad advice by both the zoning administrator and the town attorney. And she let the building fall down. Sorry, your variance doesn't apply anymore. And if Liz wants to build it within that time limit, then that is a legal variance. That's all I'm saying. But
So
she'd have
then
to build
Liz. So then Liz,
Yes,
do you have the intention of building the house that the design that you submitted in your application for the variance? Or do you not intend to build that house?
no, I don't intend to build the house at this moment.
Okay, well, that's a pivotal point in my mind.
Mhm.
I agree.
I wonder then, would the members have any other comments? Do I hear a motion?
No, Susie's got a comment.
Well, my
Yeah.
comment was going to be, I don't really see a purpose to table it. I think.
I'll make a motion, if that's okay. I make a motion to deny the application for a variance to Miss Gale
Mhm.
for the property on Juarez.
Do I hear a second?
I second it.
Motion has been made and seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Regrettably, aye.
Mhm. A motion made, seconded. Natalie?
Aye.
Oh, and it's unanimous. And sorry, Ms. Gale.
No, thank you for your time. I do appreciate it.
Mhm. And, on that note, we'll move on to the next request for variance, item 8 on our agenda. Kitty, I got this kitty here. And this is a variance request for a rear deck extension at 630 Main Street by the applicant owner, Tom Bowers. Also with Adam Deli listed, but Tom Bowers is the actual owner, right?
Yeah, Adam's doing the construction.
Right, okay. And the application is seeking a variance to the 5-foot rear setback requirement to allow a deck to be constructed approximately 1 foot from the rear property line. Now, I think your presentation was good, especially with the knowledge that you're leasing the strip of property and have been maintaining it for a number of years. That this would be, it's not encroaching, but that is just beyond your setback, and it's an unbuildable lot, isn't it, or is it?
I believe it is. I believe it is.
I couldn't really quite see the dimensions of the lot that you lease from Verde X.
That's a good question too, because Lisa G below me owns in back of her up to a certain point. So it's just a kind of a thin strip there.
How many feet wide and deep is that strip? I mean, well, first of all, it's landlocked, and that's the question: is it buildable?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know the dimensions of that. I'm sorry for not having that information. I've leased it for over 20 years. I had the first option to buy that property if it ever comes up for sale. And I have taken care of that property since I started leasing it over 20 years ago. I also got a letter from Roberta Westcott stating that they've given me permission to build as close to the property line.
Yes, that was included in your application.
Yes, and but I don't know the exact dimensions.
I do.
Excuse me. I have the same deal behind my house. I believe they've got a 20-foot right of way that goes all the way from 89A to the runoff, which there is, UVX has no access, and they are not able to build anything because it's only 20 feet wide. So,
You know, and leasing it, I myself still lease my driveway from Verdex. And part of my lease, I didn't see that detail in the lease that came with your application, Tom. But my lease says that if and when they ever decide to sell it, they have to offer it to me first.
Oh, I thought that was in there. I know that's our agreement, and that's why I've always leased it that way, knowing that. But I could clarify that with Roberta too, but that's how I've always leased it.
Margie?
Yeah, this, if I'm understanding you correctly, this is the agenda item, and it says that the existing deck is approximately 22 feet by 5 feet. Is that what you were wondering about?
No,
no.
Didn't know the dimensions?
No, I was wondering about the dimensions of the lot behind him that he leases. That
Okay, I beg your
it
pardon.
would be just beyond his setback, but he's been leasing it for a long time and maintaining it, you know, for fire danger and you know, weeds.
And I also take care of the property next to me that I don't lease from them.
Oh,
So I you know, anyways.
Yes, Margie?
I'm sorry, but I wanted to know why you want to extend it. Is there a purpose? I mean, what is the purpose?
My purpose is for my pleasure. You know, I've taken care, I've done everything in my power to secure that property over the years.
Yeah.
And it's time to replace the decks. And I've done my due diligence as a citizen of this property to take care of it and to make sure I have the option to buy it when it does come for sale.
But
and having the permission from the property owner that I lease from, you know, I thought it was maybe a good option to try this.
So, I mean, you don't own the property that you're trying to get a variance for?
No, I own the property that I'm getting the variance for. I don't own the property that it abuts to.
Right.
But
right.
I have a letter stating it's okay to go up to their property line.
Right, but that isn't the issue for the variance. The variance is what is the purpose of you know, deviating from the setback?
Well,
And,
to have a place for
personally-
entertainment off from my kitchen, it's purely for pleasure.
Okay, that's what I was wondering.
It's purely
That's what
for
I was
pleasure.
wondering.
Yes.
Right, and that doesn't really fall under the purposes of a variance, but that's
I also
what
have
I have to
neighbors.
say.
I also have neighbors that are built into their setback. You know, with their hot tubs or with their shed across the street.
Did they get a variance?
Well, the hot tub, I don't believe they did. But they did have to go back and get engineering, and the town approved it.
I don't know. I don't think they're the same thing. Placing a object down there, and I don't know, but it's better to stick with what you're applying for, which is a 5 foot into the setback, which leaves
really
1
4
foot
foot
between you and the next person's property. That's all.
Yes.
1 foot between you and them.
Which he has the lease on.
Yeah.
well,
For now, it's a lease, but
well, yeah, two things. Leases don't count. But the other thing is that the other actual person whose property is next to his is over 20 feet away, because that's the UVX strip of land. So encroaching on the neighbor, he's still 20 feet away from the neighbor. So, I
can
mean,
do that in my head. I mean, but in the end, the actual, I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was recognizing Susie.
Oh, I
Susie?
wasn't sure if I was muted. I think that because Tom holds the lease and has had it for like 20 years, and he has already, maybe not in writing, but they understand that should they ever decide to sell that property, that he's going to have the first right to buy it. I don't believe, when I looked at that lot, I don't see how it's buildable by somebody else.
not,
And I understand his desire to have an outdoor living space, and I don't know. I think that because it's not encroaching on anybody else's property, that I think that he should be granted this variance.
Natalie?
I understand according to the application that our fire chief, Rusty Blair, was asked about this, but I would like you, Tom, to say how you understand, and I believe it came through you, John, in terms of what Rusty said about the fire hazard, what he said about taking care of it, what would be a possible condition that we put on here to make sure that we are in agreement with the fire chief.
We're going to use Trex. Trex, which is the composite that's kind of disintegrates when it burns, and we are also going to use a metal kind of design plate, so it will all be as fire resistant as you could build a deck. Now, when I talked to Rusty, he said, well, everything burns. If you get a rock hot enough, a rock will burn. So really, there is no substance that isn't going to, combust at a certain temperature. But like I said, I take care of that property. I make sure, the growth is cut down. I make sure there's a very safe fire distance. And yeah, that's about it.
John?
I would like to ask you to please say, what did Rusty say about this? Because can a fire be put out there? I mean, it's a part of what went on when your house was built, and now you're asking for this variance. And I would like to know more what he said, not just make it.
Well, you know what, Natalie, that's a good question. The only way to fight a fire from this house is from the street.
Yes.
And that's why we're trying to build this out of non-combustible material.
Mm-hmm.
Because we're going close to the property line also. But you can't, it's either from Holly Street and up the hill, or it's from on top from 89A.
Mm-hmm.
But he never mentioned that. He was just all he mentioned was the flammability. He never questioned how they would fight a fire.
Thank you.
And in fact, years ago, what happened is we had the fire department called here because of flames in the window from my charcoal grill, which I've turned to gas now. And the fire department came down, and I heard the sirens. I'm going, where are they going? And I saw the backup lights coming up the driveway or into the driveway. And as I ran out, two of them ran right by me. They didn't hear a word I said. They were going there with the hose. So they had no problem getting to my house real fast and in the driveway and down the driveway, because they passed me up in a hurry.
Thank you.
Yes.
Chair Shapiro, if I could answer Ms.
Yes,
Barlow's
John.
questions. I did talk to Chief Blair today, and I talked to him last week. as well about the specific question that Mr. Bowers addressed. A little more detail, just to reiterate, he stated again that any variance into a setback has the potential to harm their ability, to impede their ability to fight fires. So in general, they are not in favor of variances. However, if the Board of Adjustment is interested in approving a variance, there's a couple things that he would be interested in seeing. One would be non-combustible. They'd be constructed of non-combustible materials. And as Mr. Bowers mentioned, non-combustible, even rocks will burn if you get them hot enough. So he'll have to work out exactly what the definition of non-combustible is with the fire chief. The other thing that was very important to him was that there be access underneath the deck. So if they do, for whatever reason, need to get around the back of the structure, they are able to get around the structure underneath the deck. It's a second-story deck, not a first-story deck. So as it currently sits, it's fairly easy to get around it. It can probably fairly easily be constructed in such a way that there's access underneath the deck, should the board be interested in approving the variance.
Maggie?
Mr. Shapiro,
Yes, Maggie?
I'm sorry, I've lost my screen, but may I speak?
Oh, please.
I want to say that if the criteria for all of our variances were fire, we would be commenting on that on each and every one instead of not just this one, because I do remember that Mr. Babich comment about the turnaround, or maybe it was you, Gary. Anyway, so my concern is that the purpose of granting a variance is to afford someone, because of the topography or the something along the lines of what goes on in the Gulch, where everybody has some sort of accessory building and it's all willy-nilly, front yard, backyard, everywhere. And yet that is the purpose. This is a purpose that is self-projected. And I read that in the case of a variance, that the one thing you're not supposed to do is to grant variances because of somebody's self-imposed desire. That's what I've read. And 634, what is it, 7943, is that the number? Somebody?
Yes.
Thank you. Anyway, so I'm thinking that to say yes to a request for a variance because I want to, just because I want it, isn't sufficient, and not along the lines of what I have seen. Oh, bloody, sorry. Oh, surprise. It is not what I've read or seen as an appropriate reason to grant a variance. In fact, if somebody else comes along, the next person to, in fact, the people we've had tonight already just said, because I want to. Because Ms. Gale said, I want to make more money. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm actually I don't mean to say I'm not putting those words in her mouth. I didn't mean to do that. Can you please wait till I'm done, Carol Ann? Anyway, my concern is to not grant a variance on the conditions of somebody's self-imposed, because you already have a deck, from what I understand. And I don't see that as a reason why we should put 1 foot as a setback for anything. Because in my experience, setbacks are always there for, the closer the setback, the more hazard, the less space. If, for example, the, the mining company, they can choose to build anytime they want, anything they want, practically. And here you are. And not only that, even though Mr. Bauer sounds like a very good, he's very diligent and a good steward of the land, he may not live there for another year. Who knows? So for that reason, I'd say another point that is not, it's kind of moot, because anybody can sell their property anytime. And to look at a good steward is one thing, but it may not exist in another month or two. Who knows? And that's all I'd say. Thank you.
Susie?
Given the fact that Mr. Bowers doesn't have very many neighbors right next to him, it's mostly wide open space.
right now.
He's not really granted the same opportunity as the people that are in the Gulch who are already up to their property lines or very close to it. And, you know, he does have the lease on that land. He has been taking care of it. And if I just don't see that all of a sudden UVX is gonna like build there. And I don't know.
I don't believe it's a bit, I don't believe it's a buildable lot.
Yeah, I don't believe it is either. I looked at it and I just really don't think it is. Like, where would you even access it? You know? Anyway, all that said, I really feel that Mr. Bowers should be able to, you know, enjoy his property. And when I, you know, visited and was on the existing deck, it is very narrow. I think it would be much more livable. Again, he doesn't have other neighbors even close to him, so to compare it to. So I don't know. I just don't see it. And he's been taking care of that land for 20 years. He's been leasing that land for 20 years. And I think he should be able to, you know, utilize his deck.
Chris?
Well, I agree with Susie's conclusion, but I do not agree with her argument. If you lease the property, that is not a valid reason. I mean, that doesn't count. I mean, we've ruled on this many times, but I agree with your conclusion, because the fact is that his neighbor is more than 20 feet away from his property, and that property in the middle is owned by UVX, which does neither have access nor the ability to build because it's only 20 feet wide. So since he is not impinging on his neighbor and his lower deck already impinges, I don't see any problem. I don't see it. I mean, I agree with your conclusion, Susie. I don't agree with your argument, but I agree with your conclusion. So that's what I have to say.
Natalie?
Wow, Natalie.
I want to ask again, I believe John mentioned there are two decks. There's a lower one and an upper one.
Yeah.
Is this going to be an extension of the upper one? I understood that it was. Is that
Yes.
true?
Yes,
Yes, it is. Well, then I don't know about this getting underneath it business. I'm looking at the pictures and I don't know what to.
There'll be 10 feet. It's almost 10 feet off the ground.
And the lower deck is flagstone or concrete and open-ended
Yes.
for access egress for emergency or otherwise.
Okay. Thank you.
Margie?
Yes, if this were to be allowed, Mr. Bowers mentioned Trex, and I'm not a contractor or builder, and yet I don't know. I read what Chief Blair wrote, and he did, it is in writing, it's part of our packet. He did make a comment, and all I'm saying is not knowing, I just spoke with a builder the other day about non-combustible materials, and I don't know much about them, but I'm saying if that's an issue, that we conditionally request that it be built with because that's a big prairie, right, behind it. And I don't know if we're going to use fire as a condition. If fire is part of the conversation, should we not look at what's appropriate to use to build there or not? Is that out of our purview?
Well,
Condition.
Tom already put that in his application, that it's going to be fire resistant material. He already put that
Okay,
in
I've
his
heard, I've
application.
just heard rumors about Trex, so I don't know. I'm not real proficient about it. So you're saying, Chris, that it is it's a good fire resistant material? Because maybe
Yes.
Chief Blair could make a comment about that too.
Yes,
You didn't.
I thought he did. But it is a very less combustible material, whatever.
He just says
It did.
constructed of fire resistant materials. That's what the fire chief wrote,
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's,
whatever
that's,
that
what-
may be.
that's,
So
that's,
should we put that
what-
in, if there is a vote and a condition, may we put that in there that it's got to be built of fire resistant material?
I believe Tom already did that.
I mean, if and when we vote on this, can we make
Yeah,
it a
no, Tom
condition?
already put in that he was doing fire resistant
Right,
material.
I'm talking about the vote.
Oh, but you mean, if we make a motion to grant the variance that
Correct,
the
yes,
fire
thank you.
fire resistant material be included.
Right,
in-
otherwise we're ignoring the
But it's
fire
part-
chief's request.
It's part of the application.
I know, but
It is.
it needs to be part of the motion.
Just to clarify, Ms. Hardy correctly states if there is a motion, the fire chief has requested that those two items be added as conditions. And you could clarify that or modify that in any way you see fit. The deck can, there's some question about what exactly is fire resistant materials. And I would say you could change that condition to fire resistant materials as approved by the fire chief.
I think that's the best way to,
But
otherwise,
the
what's
fi-
the point in asking him?
But if the fire chief says rocks will burn,
That's called lava burn, okay?
Well, the
So,
building,
yeah,
But-
I'm
but really,
I'm
I
a
mean-
chemist, damn it.
the
So,
building, the
yeah.
building and fire code has a variety of methods of creating fire resistance.
Yes,
It's
and
not
and Rusty put that in his comments, which is in our package,
exactly.
which Tom agreed to. So I would like to vote submit a motion to approve Tom's request for his incursion onto UVX unbuildable property. Do I have a
hear a second? I'll second that motion,
Discussion?
and we'll move to a vote.
No, may we have a discussion now after that second? May it be?
Sure, go
Yeah,
ahead.
so I'm saying, if the fire chief said to build it out of non-buildable material, and if you want to go along with
Non-combustible.
his recommendation, maybe
Non-com-
not put it in the motion.
Non-combustible, you mean, right?
He wrote, I'll tell you, he wrote here, I like what John said. What John said, would you be interested in amending your motion?
Sure. I would like to make a motion that we approve Tom's request for a variance on the condition that he builds the extra deck out of low combustible materials as approved by the fire chief.
That's great.
Hmm.
Thank
Do
you.
I have a second?
I'll second.
What's the other
There
thing?
you go.
Motion made and seconded.
What's the other thing?
No, if there's no further discussion, we'll vote.
well,
All in
I,
favor?
You object, Tom?
no,
Yeah,
no,
right.
no,
He
no, sorry.
opposes it.
No,
I
no.
vote yes. Aye.
I
Aye. Ellie?
I,
I have a question. Whose second do I go with?
Take somebody else's.
But I seconded it twice. The initial and amended.
Okay, I'll go with you,
Vote
Gary.
is unanimous, and congratulations.
Thank you.
now, can I say something about the previous minutes that Rosa wrote?
Too late.
Did not mention the fact that I cannot see red hyphens on your, that was not in your minutes. That I can't
Sorry,
see.
honey.
It was actually a HIPAA violation, so they couldn't mention it.
Oh,
John, Is it too late for Natalie to comment on the previous item?
It's already been
It's
approved.
already been
Yeah,
approved.
it has been approved. And I'm afraid it would be, actually be out of order. Unless,
Out of order.
it would be out of order, and past here, the only comments from the public or board members would need to be written and on the agenda.
Got it.
I'm sorry to say.
Thank you.
Sorry.
And on that note, let's see, I believe we have accomplished our agenda on this meeting. And let's see, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
Wait, we have future items, no?
No,
I'm sorry, what?
nothing
Motion,
scheduled.
motion to adjourn.
Rosa, there isn't anything left on our agenda tonight, is there?
No, there are no future items. That was item number 9.
Oh, okay. That's
Nothing
what I thought.
currently scheduled.
Okay. So,
Motion to adjourn.
and do I hear a second?
I'll second.
Made and seconded, all in favor?
Aye.
Bye.
Aye.
Motion passes unanimously. And thank you all and have a very nice night.
Happy birthday.
Susie,
Wonderful.
Rosa.
was that
Oh,
Susie?
yeah, happy birthday, Rosa.
Oh, thank you. Susie, was that you the second on the
Yeah,
adjournment?
Ah,
mostly
Susie.
At the same time.
Thank you. All right.
Good night, everyone.
Thank you.
Birthday.
Thank you. Good night.